You're listening to the StudioPTBO podcast, where we talk all things marketing to help you build and grow your business online. Welcome to the latest episode. And we are back. Welcome to another episode of the StudioPTBO podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We are on a mission to help entrepreneurs with marketing and mindset knowledge, help them build, grow, and scale their business online. So who better to have today than Peter Shankman? Before we introduce you, Neil Borden, how are you doing? Things are good? Life is good?
Cody, yes, life is good. My rose-colored glasses are on, as they're on every day, and there's so much hope and kindness happening in the world right now in so many respects that, yeah, and our guest really espouses that today. Really positive guy who really helps a lot of people. How would I classify Peter Shankman? Entrepreneur, author, skydiver. He is a Ironman athlete in training. And great all-around guy who really helps people around the world and mentors people around the world. And he started a very popular company that he sold 10 years ago called Helper Reporter, which is used around the world to connect journalists and PR people. So Peter, welcome to the show. We're really grateful for your time.
My pleasure. Good to be here. Thanks.
Great. And I guess to start, can you give us a little bit of your backstory, growing up in New York City and what motivated you at a young age to become an entrepreneur and an innovator and a positive disruptor, if you will? I'll call you.
Well, thank you very much. It's very kind. I mean, I started my career, I grew up in New York City. I was a public school kid who was always getting in trouble for speaking out of turn and disrupting the class. ADHD wasn't a thing back in the 80s. Sit down, you're disrupting the class was a thing. And I had that, and had one job after Boston University. I had one job. I was a news editor. I was one of the founding news editors of America Online, back in the day when AOL was the internet, and had an amazing time there. And what I realized when I left after 3 years at AOL, I came back to New York, and I realized that my next job, I took a job working for a magazine, and it lasted about a week because they had people coming in. You had to come in every, you had to be in by 8:30, and you had to punch in, and you had 30 minutes for lunch. And AOL let you work whatever the way you wanted as long as you got work done. And I thought that that's what work was, right? I thought that every business was like that. And so I had a rude awakening at this magazine. I'm like, okay, I obviously don't do well with others, right? I don't do well working for someone else. And so I went out on my own, really as a matter of necessity. It wasn't so much that I had that I had this grand idea. It was really about, wow, I'm going to be miserable in a normal 9-to-5 job.
Right.
So I'm going to try going out on my own. And I started a PR firm with zero experience and zero money. Sold it 3 years later at the height of the dot-com boom. Consulted for a bit, hung out, traveled, wrote a couple of books, and then in 2007 launched Helper Reporter Out, and that was acquired in 2010. Since then, I've been consulting. I'm a corporate keynote speaker who, up until about 6 months ago, was traveling 250,000 miles a year and having a blast doing it. I mean, my happy place is on an airplane. Needless to say, that's stopped.
Right.
Strangely, my work has increased. I'm doing more speeches now. Unfortunately, they're all virtual. That leaves me with a lot of free time. So, which when you're ADHD can either be the best thing in the world or the kiss of death. And so, I'm trying to focus as much as possible on doing things, on writing, on making sure that I'm spending my days productively. I joke that when you give someone like me a lot of free time, I'm either going to start another multi-million-dollar company or I'm going to be a heroin addict. There's really no middle ground. I joke that I have two speeds in my life. I have namaste and I'll cut a bitch, and there's no center there. So, being aware of that. On the flip side, I'm a single dad, and so the past 6 months I've spent almost every waking minute with my daughter, which is pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
She's 7 and doing the homeschool thing again this year. They're not going to open New York City schools anytime soon, and I found out that all of her teachers have been lying to me. She is, in fact, not a pleasure to have in class. So. Yeah, it's been an interesting 6 months.
Needless to say, something I picked up on, like, because you move so quickly, you move so fastly. I'm curious, like, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs that kind of listen to this podcast. We have a big community of entrepreneurs, and you have exited from quite a few companies. Every once in a while we get this, like, I find this comes up, the conversation of exiting and what a good exit strategy looks like, and how when you're ready to exit a business. Like, maybe, like, are there any key tactics that you found have really worked with when you launch a company? It's like, for some people it's a legacy play, for other people it's a it's a play where they want to exit. Like, what advice would you have for entrepreneurs specifically around whether they should exit a business and what they should look for, or whether it should be a legacy play in regards to business?
I think for me, it's really about when is it no longer fun? My entire life is based on when are things fun, right? If it's fun, I want to keep doing it. If it starts to change and it's not as fun, I'm not saying that every day has to be perfect. You're going to have shitty days no matter what you're doing. But at some point, if you wake up and you're doing less of the fun stuff and more of the stuff you don't like, it might be time to go. One of the reasons I sold Harrow is because I was at a crossroads. I could either spend the next 8 years growing it, hiring people, managing a staff, all that, or I could sell it and walk and let someone else do all that. And the option for me was very clear. I don't manage people well, and I know that. And I have one assistant who's stuck with me now, going on almost over 11 years. And the reason we work so well together is because she was very clear up front. She's like, if you want me to help you run your life, here's what I need you to do. A month into our tenure, I went to put something in my calendar and it wasn't working. And I'm like, Megan, something's wrong with the calendar. And she's like, no, everything's fine. I took write access away from it.
She blocked you.
Yeah. She's like, you no longer have. I'm like, why? She's like, you booked a dinner for next Friday. You booked 2 dinners on the same night. Like, that's really not a reason to take. She's like, you booked them on separate continents. You're done. And I learned very quickly what works and what doesn't. Right. And so it's the same thing with a company. If you're not having fun, outsource all the stuff that you don't like to do. And if you're still not having a blast with the stuff that's left, might be time to move on.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Peter, let me, if you could relay this anecdote, and this is not just because my surname's Morton, but one of the greatest PR stories of all time was a tweet you put out about Morton's Steakhouse flying into Newark Airport in 2011. Can you tell our listeners, our viewers, about that story? It was amazing.
So for me, it's a great PR story. It's funny. Everyone says it's a customer service story. It's not really. It's a PR story. I was flying home from Florida. I had a 1-day business meeting. I flew down early morning, had a lunch meeting, and flew back the afternoon. And I remember I was starving on my way back. I was getting ready. I think I was getting ready for my wedding, and so I was really like eating healthy and all that. And I was starving. I didn't want airport food. I didn't want airplane food. And I sent a tweet. I jokingly sent a tweet. Hey, Mortons, why don't you meet me when I land at Newark in 3 hours at the Porterhouse? Ha ha. The same way you tweet, hey, winter, please stop snowing. And I landed. I found my driver. Standing next to my driver was a man in a tuxedo carrying a Morton's bag. Morton's had seen the tweet, gotten to the closest store to the airport, and had delivered a steak. And I went home. I wrote a blog post about it, and that blew up. And it was on the Today Show, and Morton's revenue hit double digits. Went double digits higher that year.
Wow.
From that. So, it's a great story, but the bigger picture there is that Morton's is phenomenal at providing a great customer experience every time you go. Right? If you didn't, if you went to Morton's and your steak was the wrong temperature and your drink was messed up and you had to wait for a table, it wouldn't matter what they did for me at the airport. Their job isn't to deliver a steak to airports. Their job is to create a great experience when you go there, and they're very good at that. And that is what allows a stunt like this to, even though it was not planned, and I hadn't, I didn't do anything to it wasn't faked. But those stunts only work if you have great customer experience and great customer service to begin with.
Yeah, like Peter, like I spent 10 years in the telecom industry working for Best Buy, and one of the culture, differentiators for that company was, be amazing for every single person that walked in the door. And, they give us the autonomy as managers in order to actually do that. So like, I'm curious, like, with entrepreneurs and with business owners and people that are growing, oftentimes the thing that can hold people back from giving great customer service, what I see anyways, and I'm curious to know your perspective on this, is as they grow, they encounter hurdles inside the business, such as, delivery and systems and processes. And, as they're growing, it becomes difficult for them to really give the best possible customer service. Like, what advice, or are there 3 tips as you were growing businesses, and even now, that you give to your clients or in keynotes around customer service? How do they do that as they grow? Because I find that can often be, customer service can be missed as a company is growing.
One of the things that companies tend not to realize is they look at customer service as a profit, as a price point rather than a profit center. It doesn't take millions and millions of dollars to be amazing. Considering where the bar is for the customer experience, think about the last time you were on an airplane, back when we could fly. You get on a plane and you'd get to the airport and you'd go through security, and for whatever reason, you'd get pulled for the you look like a terrorist, so you'd get pulled for the anal probe. Now it's an hour later, you're rushing to your gate, but it's okay, you're at gate 4, it's right there, except they changed your gate without telling anyone. Now you're at gate 286, which is, 4 airports in 6 states that way. And then doors still open, so you'll make the plane, but you were in seat 3A. Well, you weren't there quick enough. They gave that away. Now you're in seat 37 bathroom. And that's your flight for the next 5 hours. It's so bad that when I give this speech and I talk to people about customer experience, I ask people in the audience who had a great flight recently, and someone raised their hand. And I said, well, what made it great? And they said, oh, we took off on time. We landed on time. I had the seat I wanted. Okay, that's not a great flight, sir. That's actually just called a flight.
Yeah.
Right? You paid for your ticket. You signed a contract of carriage where you paid for a ticket and they took you somewhere and brought you back. And that's all they did. They didn't go out of their way to make it awesome. Yet you're over the moon because what you expected was so bad, right? So I don't need companies to spend billions of dollars to try to impress me. Hire good people. Hire people with empathy. Hire people who smile. Hire people who understand that it doesn't take a multi-billion-dollar marketing campaign to improve customer service. It takes employees who care. And it takes a company that allows employees to care. I remember I was in Dubai. I was staying at the Four Seasons in Dubai. And I came home from a day of meetings, and in the bathroom, there was a brand new tube of the type of toothpaste I was using, with a note: "Dear Mr. Shankman, while we were cleaning your room, we noticed that you were almost out of toothpaste. We took the liberty of going to the drugstore and replacing it with a brand new tube. Have a wonderful day." Name of the host. I was blown away, right? But you have to work for a company that says, you know what, that's going to make the customer happy. It's going to make the guest happy. So yeah, you're allowed to take a few minutes out of your schedule and walk over to the drugstore and replace the toothpaste, because that's the right thing to do. And it was. I always remember that. It was like 7, 8 years ago, and I still remember that.
That's so cool. It's the micro moments too that add up to the macro whole. 100% agree. The entrepreneurial journey, for anyone that's been on it, is a tremendous roller coaster. You have a great podcast, ADHD podcast, and you had Brian Scudamore on, the founder of 1-800-I-GOT-JUNK, and he talked about how for him, a lot of the highs actually came from the lows. Almost like he liked falling down in order to, succeed. Do you espouse that as well, that, you have to accept the fact and actually embrace that failures or downers, if you will, are part of the journey?
God, yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I failed. I mean, I've failed so many times, and that's awesome, because every time I fail, I try to learn from it. And if we didn't fail, we wouldn't be able to. It's like, I'm looking outside right now. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous day. Well, yesterday was pouring rain. I appreciate this gorgeous day just a little bit more because yesterday was pouring rain.
It's so interesting. Like, when we talk about failure, like we've had so many conversations, so many chats with so many different entrepreneurs from around the world, and the topic of failure comes up like so much. And like I think one of kind of shifting gears, like one of the things that I've been thinking about as I was like kind of listening to podcasts and preparing for it was just this conversation around energy. And I'm curious how you actually maintain energy and how you generate energy, because like you said, you're moving so quickly. How do you find that you generate the energy that you need in order to be productive? Like how do you do that? Like, what does that look like for you?
So my day has to start with exercise, or I don't have a good day. I mean, it's very, very, it's that easy, right? It's that simple. I have to be up. So to do that, I have to exercise before my daughter gets up. So I'm usually up around 3:45 in the morning, around 3:45 or so. And I wake up and I either lift weights or I get on my Peloton bike. I used to go to Equinox 2 times a week, and that obviously doesn't happen anymore in New York City. But so I get on my Peloton, and I've had my Peloton for like 4 years, and it is probably the greatest single purchase I've ever made in my life. I'll do an hour on the bike. I've already hit my calorie goal for the day, burnt my calorie burn goal. An hour on the bike for someone who's 220 like me, I'll burn 1,000 calories. Take a shower. I'll be dressed and having my first cup of coffee by like 6:30 in the morning, having already worked out, having already gotten the dopamine hit that allows me to focus throughout the course of the day. I have a prescription for an ADHD medication called Concerta. I take it maybe once a week, less. I don't need it. As long as I get the exercise in, I get the same dopamine that I need to focus. The key is making sure you do it. I mean, even my daughter, who's 7 now, and I remember she was 4 or 5, and I hadn't worked out one morning, and she comes in, and I was just, whatever. She goes, "Daddy, did you go on your bike today?" I go, "No." She goes, "You don't seem as happy."
Interesting.
So obviously visible.
Yeah.
It's
so,
it's
so like where do you find, like, on the days that you don't do it, like, I hear so often, entrepreneurs and business owners, and like even myself, like I chat a lot about morning routine. I get it, but like, where do you find the intrinsic motivation in order to make that happen on a day in and day out basis? Like, are there any tips or tactics that you have that actually, it's like we talk about these morning routines, and it's like, this is what works for you, but it's like, have you been able to channel like, an intrinsic motivation? Like, what gets you up in the morning, I guess, in order to do that?
Something called playing the tape forward. How am I going to feel in 12 hours if I don't work out? And there's never been a time in my life where I've regretted working out, right? Where I've regretted going for a bike ride or a run or a lifting session or a swim. The only times I've ever regretted it is when I don't do it. So it sort of becomes that question of, okay, it's 3:30 in the morning. Yeah, I'm a little tired, but how am I going to feel tomorrow? Yeah. How am I going to feel tonight if I go back to sleep? It's a simple answer. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's a very easy one.
I love that.
And I know it won't work.
You didn't you jog in Central Park too early one day when the pandemic?
Yes, I did. I got a summons for exercising in Central Park, quote unquote, before it opened. Born and raised in Manhattan, had no idea you could close nature. And I mean, I probably wouldn't have gotten the summons. The cop says, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm sweating. It's the middle of February. I'm in black spandex. I'm cold. I'm sweating. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I look at the guy. I'm like, giving hand jobs for crack. What do you think I'm doing? Turns out that's not the right thing to say to a cop in New York City. And here we go.
No, that was a funny story. Peter, tell us about your newsletter. I get your newsletter. I think it's weekly, and I find it super inspiring, super personable, super authentic, and just like get up and go after life, and don't let this moment in time, this blip right now of Trump and the pandemic and all these bad things cause toxicity in your life. What's the inspiration for your newsletter? And walk us through that and the strategy. It doesn't feel like a strategy, but walk us through how that works.
It's interesting. You know, for me, it's really about creating content. I don't send out emails to hear myself talk. I send out emails because I have something interesting to share. Having an audience is a privilege. It's not a right.
Yeah.
It's exactly like wearing spandex. Very few of us have the right to wear spandex. It's a privilege that we earn by exercising every day. And then when we do our races, you know, we can wear. I finish my triathlon. Someone comes over, gives me the medal, shakes my hand, says, "Great job. Now please put on this bulky t-shirt." I get that. It's the same thing with an audience. You know, having an audience is a privilege, not a right. And if I want to keep talking to my audience, I have to fulfill that privilege by giving them information they can use. And so for me, it's about never selling, but offering.
Okay.
And I offer information that people might want. I offer stuff that people might need. And the result in that is that when I do have something to sell and I tack it on as a PS to the bottom of the email,
I see though. Yep.
They usually sell like hotcakes because I'm not selling. I'm offering. I'm helping.
Yeah, it's very soft sell to me.
Selling and helping, always choose helping.
Yeah, it's a soft sell at the end is your master of media course that you're offered a special offer, and also I think consultations online one-on-one, but it feels very soft to me. It's not like a jab, hook, soft hook. Yeah. So I know Cody subscribed to that too, and I do as well. So your newsletter, I know you probably heard this a million times, but I love your newsletter is one of the favorite ones I get every week, and I get a lot.
Thank you. So I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's interesting. I don't have a schedule for them. I send them out when I have something to say. That sometimes might be twice a week. Sometimes it might not be for a month, because again, I have to respect the audience.
I love that like ethos on like, you know, actually talking when you have something to say. Like, so when it comes to like, we've chatted with a lot of entrepreneurs, and what we find often comes up is the idea of seeking new information. And when you seek new information, you change your beliefs. You know, how do you keep yourself inspired, or like, is there something specific? Like when you say that, like, you know, hey, I write this email whenever I feel like I have something to say. What does that look like? What does the process of that look like? Because a lot of people even have trouble starting writing an email newsletter. So I'm really curious to know kind of like the process in which you actually physically write that email and what that value looks like.
I write down the majority of my stuff when I have something. When I'm thinking about something, I'll write it down. Normally, it usually happens on an airplane, but I keep a file with all my ideas, and sometimes they turn into. You know, last night I was sitting in front of I was sitting on the couch. It was like the first night in a week that I didn't have my daughter. And I was sitting on the couch with nothing to do. And I'm like, wow, I have nothing to do. This is so weird. I wonder what I should do. And I realized there are no rules. This year has deleted all the rules.
Yeah.
And so I started, and there are no rules. That's a good subject line. And so I just quickly jotted out an email, and I'll send it sometime next week.
Yeah. That's awesome. One of your lines I've seen you say a few times is spend your life outside your comfort zone. And a lot of people struggle with that. They sort of go through their life on the fence, if you will, and don't know when to go for it. What push can you give them, and motivation can you give them to actually take the plunge and try things, whether like you've taken how many skydiving, like you've jumped out of a plane hundreds of times in your life, but what spurs, what's the motivation for people just to do, to act, to start somewhere?
Comfort zones are nice places. They're very comfortable, but nothing grows there. And, you know, when a lobster grows, a lobster shell actually doesn't grow with it. And so a lobster actually outgrows his shell, and when it gets too big for it, will have a new one will be made. We need to be more like lobsters, because if you're doing the same thing over and over, you can't expect different results. And so the premise of, you know, what's the line? Don't be upset with the results you didn't get because of the work you didn't do. And so for me, I know that if I want to live a good life, drop weight, become successful, whatever, even make money, I got to think outside of what, you know, right now, like I said, my 45-minute speeches that used in Asia that used to take 4 days to get there, to speak, to come back, now take 45 minutes. And so I have a lot of free time, and it would be really easy to sit on the couch and watch reruns of Family Guy all day. But that's not how you achieve something new.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you have to keep looking and it's sort of the concept of staying hungry, right? You got to keep staying hungry and don't get comfortable. Don't get satiated. Don't sit and accept where you are. Always try to be I'm not saying don't enjoy where you are,
Mm-hmm.
but don't become stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
Because complacency leads to stagnation. Stagnation leads to failure.
Yeah, that's great insight. And like, I'm just like ever so grateful, Peter, like just for your time and just like having the opportunity to kind of chat a little bit today, kind of wrapping up, I guess, like if somebody were to want to find more about, your mastermind, or they would want to find more about how to subscribe to your, your email newsletter, which we subscribe to, I guess, where is the best place to kind of send them? Where is the best place to, for people to reach out to you?
I'm at Peter Shankman on all the socials. My website is shankman.com. My email is peter@shankman.com. I actually answer all my own emails. So I'm more than happy to. It's just something you have to do. You have to answer your own emails. I never understand people that, if I get an email from your assistant, it diminishes the interaction for me.
I agree.
So You're welcome to email me. You're welcome to find me online. Like I said, at Peter Shankman, and just shankman.com is my website.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter. Really appreciate your time today. Neil, anything to add before we wrap up here?
No, I think Peter completely aligns with our ethos in life. And it comes down to just being kind, being nice, being empathetic, and empowering people to act. So thank you so much. We are grateful.
Thanks so much, Peter.
My pleasure.
Awesome. And thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Studio PTBO podcast. We will see you soon.